So now, we're going to talk about APIs. What is an API? An API or Application Programming Interface is a software that allows other applications to access its data or services. It is a way for softwares to communicate with each other. API is like a middleman that helps to send and receive information. APIs are found almost everywhere. Amazon Web Services, Facebook, and home automation devices such as thermostats, refrigerators, and wireless lighting systems all use API. API is also used for building programmable network automation. Example of an API. To really understand how APIs can be used to provide data and services, we will look at two options for booking airline reservations. The first option uses the website of a specific airline. Using the airline's website, the user enters the information to make a reservation request. The website interacts directly with the airline's own database and provides the user with information matching their user's request. The second option uses travel site, not only from a specific airline, but a variety of airlines. The travel service website interacts with the various airline databases using APIs provided by each airline. The travel service uses each airline API to request information from the specific airline, and then it displays the information from all the airlines on its webpage. Open, internal, and partner APIs. These are the three types of APIs. First is open or public APIs. Examples of these are International Space Station API and Google Maps API. Because these APIs are public, many API providers require the users to get a free key or token prior to using the API. This is to help control the number of API requests they receive and process. Second is the internal or private APIs. These are the APIs used within an organization. An example of an internal API is allowing authorized salespeople to access its internal sales data on their mobile devices. Lastly is the partner APIs. These are the APIs between a company and its business partners. The business partners must have a license or other form of permission to use the API. A travel service using an airline's API is an example of a partner API. Types of web service APIs. There are four types of web service APIs. First is SOAP or Simple Object Access Protocol. It uses XML format and it is released in 1998. One of its strengths is it is well established. Second is REST or Representational State Transfer. It uses multiple data formats such as JSON, XML, YAML, and others. It is released in 2000 and one of its strengths is flexible formatting. Third is XML PRC or Extensible Markup Language Remote Procedure Call. It uses XML format and it is released in 1998. One of its strengths is it is well established. Fourth is JSON RPC and or JavaScript Object Notation Remote Procedure Call. It uses JSON format and it is released in 2005. One of its strengths is its simplicity. So now we're going to talk more about the REST API. REST and Restful API. REST is an architectural style for designing web service applications. REST API is an API that works on the top of HTTP protocol. It defines a set of functions developers can use to perform requests and receive responses via HTTP protocols such as GET and POST. An API can be considered RESTful if it has the following features. Client-server. The client handles the front end while the server handles the back end. Stateless. No client data is stored on the server. The session state is stored on the client. Cacheable. Clients can cache responses to improve performance. RESTful implementations. A RESTful web service is implemented using HTTP. It is a collection of resources with four defined aspects. First, the base uniform resource identifier or URI for the web service, such as http example.com/resources. Second, the data format supported by the web service. This is often JSON, YAML, or XML, but could be any other data format that is valid hypertext standard. Third, the set of operations supported by the web service using HTTP methods. And fourth, the API must be hypertext driven. RESTful APIs use common HTTP methods including post, get, put, patch, and delete. The counterpart of post is for RESTful operation is create, for get it is read, for put and patch it is update, and for delete it is still delete. In the figure below, as you can see here, the HTTP request asks for JSON formatted data. If the request is successfully constructed according to the API documentation, the server will respond with the JSON data. So on the left side, you can see the JSON formatted data with all the information, and on the right side is the request and response process. URI, URN, and URL. Web resources and web services such as RESTful APIs are identified using a URI. A URI is a string of characters that identify a specific network resource. A URI has two specializations: Uniform Resource Name and Uniform Resource Locator. URN, it identifies only the namespace of the resource without referencing to the protocol. URL defines the network location of a specific resources on the network. These are the parts of a URI. This is the whole URI from https www.example.com/author/book.html page 155. From https up until book.html, it is the URL, and without the https, it is just the URN. www.example.com is the host, and the author/book.html is the path and file name. Anatomy of RESTful request. In a RESTful web service, a request made to a resource's URI will elicit a response. The response will be a payload typically formatted in JSON, but could be HTML, XML, YAML, or some other format. The figure below here shows the URI for the MapQuest Directions API. The API request is for the directions from San Jose, California to Monterey, California. From HTTP until .com is the API server, and directions/v2/route is the resources, and from out format until San Jose, California to Monterey, California is the query. These are the different parts of the API request. API server. This is the URL for the server that answers REST requests. Resources. It specifies the API that is being requested. Query. It specifies the data format and the information the client is requesting from the API service. Queries can include the following. Format. This is usually JSON but can be YAML or XML. In the previous example, it uses JSON. Key. The key is for authorization if required. MapQuest requires a key for the Directions API. In this URI, you need to replace the key with a valid key to submit the valid request. Parameters. Parameters are used to send information pertaining to the request. In this example, the query parameters include the information about directions that the API needs, so it knows what directions to return. From San Jose, California to Monterey, California. Many RESTful APIs, including public APIs, requires a key. The key is used to identify the source of the request. Here are some reasons why an API provider may require a key. First, to authenticate the source to make sure that they are authorized to use the API. Second, to limit the number of people using the API. Third, to limit the number of requests per user. Fourth, to better capture and track data being requested by users. And last, to gather information on the people using the API. Many websites and applications uses API to access information and provides services for their customers. For example, when using a travel service website, the travel service uses the API of various airlines to provide the user with the airline, hotel, and other information. Some RESTful API requests can be made by typing in the URI from within the browser. From the previous example, the MapQuest Directions API is an example. A RESTful API request can also be made in other ways. Here are some examples of API applications. First is the developer website. Often maintain websites that includes information about the API, parameter information, and usage examples. These sites may also allow the users to perform the API request within the developer web page by entering in the parameters and other informations. Postman. It is an application for testing and using REST APIs. It is available as a browser or standalone app. It contains everything required for constructing and sending REST API requests, including entering query parameters and keys. Python. APIs can also be called from within a Python program. This allows for possible automation, customization, and app integration of the API. In the figure below, it shows an example of part of a Python program used to submit requests to the MapQuest API. And lastly, network operating systems. Using protocols such as netcon or net configuration and REST configurations, network operating systems are beginning to provide an alternative method for configuring, monitoring, and management. So, thank you for listening.